Chapter 14, Manhattan, Part 2. You could get food easily in Manhattan as long as you had the bits, but most of it was terrible, at least in Applejack's opinion. It lacked the care that either home-cooked meals or the chefs in Canterlot could provide. Still, food was food, so she sat munching on an oat burger on a park bench, trying not to taste it. It was easy enough, she had other things on her mind. "Twi, why'd you take Trixie up on her offer?" The unicorn looked at her wife with an odd look. "Why wouldn't we? We can't go to Vancouver until tomorrow morning. We might as well take in some culture until then." "Yeah, but Trixie? Have you forgotten what she did to us?" Twilight shook her head. "You know that it was the amulet that made Trixie act like that. Before she left, Princess Celestia put her under so many scanning spells, I thought she was going to get magical sickness. There's no more dark energy in her. And if you're talking about the Ursa Minor, you know that was Snips and Snail's fault more than hers." "Twi, you weren't there. You didn't have to work for her, doing all these insane demands from her, and getting your belly tickled if you refused." "Applejack, you know how lucky you were to get off with just tickling? I looked up the amulet after it was over. There were stories of ponies who crucified any pony who stood against them, as well as a few other things I can't tell you about without feeling sick." Indeed, her purple coat turned a bit green. "If her punishments were only that, I think that's a sign that the amulet couldn't corrupt her bad enough." "What if she had kept it on?" "Maybe," she admitted. "We don't really understand how the amulet works, but ponies who only had it for a week were far worse than her." I guess," Applejack mumbled. "'Cept for Snips and Snails, she left the foals alone, mostly." Twilight nodded. "See? Not that bad." "I guess. Still wasn't fun." "Are you mad that I took Trixie up on her invitation?" "A bit. Look, I know it weren't her fault. Not entirely, anyway, but seeing her after everything ain't gonna be pleasant." "Maybe it'll be better than you think. In fact, it might just be what you need." Celestia's sun lowered as Rarity and Blueblood entered the carriage from the palace to their usual restaurant. "Now then, are you sure there will be no alcohol?" Blueblood just grinned. "Aw, what? Can't handle waking up to—" His lips were squeezed shut by Rarity's magic. "I'll give you another black eye, I swear it." Blueblood waited until Rarity released him before speaking. "That's a threatening statement to a member of nobility. I think that's good for another day of community service." Rarity tried to keep a straight face. She knew by now that getting angry at Blueblood would only encourage him, so she kept her voice even. "And what, pray tell, would you have me do? The changelings will be caught in a week." Blueblood grinned, and it was the kind that had nothing good behind it. "Maybe we can try the maid thing." Rarity lost her composure. You? Relax, I'm kidding," he said. "Unless, of course, you want to—" "You pig!" She turned and looked out the window, crossing her forelegs. Blueblood chuckled. "You know Auntie says your friends are in Manhattan right now." That actually got Rarity to look back at him. "What? What if they try to find me there? That could cause the whole thing to fall apart." "I doubt they will, given that they still don't know that you know about the wedding." Both Blueblood and Rarity snickered. "And they'll likely want to keep it secret as long as they can. Besides, we have the cover story with you here, remember?" "Yes, that's right. Why are they in Manhattan anyhow?" "They're interviewing that pony that got her hooves on the alicorn amulet a few months back. Trixie, I think her name was." "Trixie?" That was a surprise. She was about to ask how Blueblood knew about her, but stopped. His job was dealing with potential security threats. Of course he'd know about something like that. "What is she doing down there?" "Oh, some sort of show or other." Blueblood brushed her off. "She's not my department." "Well, I hope they're having more fun than I am." Rarity regretted the statement when she saw Blueblood grinning. "Aw, is my company—" A hoof inserted itself into Blueblood's mouth. "Finish that, and I will give you one." As soon as the hoof was removed, he spoke. A little pain for a lovely maid. Sounds like a fair trade." She scoffed, deciding it was best not to feed the fire. "And Luna put up that one just a few nights ago," Spike said, pointing to a cluster of stars. It's supposed to be the great warrior Silver Sword. Scootaloo, Sweetie Belle, and Silver Spoon looked up at the cluster. It looks beautiful, the latter filly mused. It's my turn for the telescope, Apple Bloom called, trying to shove Diamond Tiara away from Twilight's custom-made tool. Blank flanks don't get a turn, the pink filly said, pushing into her at the side. By now, their four companions had learned to tune out their arguing, though Spike was keeping a close eye on the telescope to make sure the pair didn't break it. And to the right is the original Ursa Major. The original? Apple Bloom raised an eyebrow at that. Twilight told me that all Ursa Majors on Echoes were brought down from the stars by Nightmare Moon when she started to stand up to her sister. So they're like the Timberwolves? Silver Spoon asked. They were made from the magic runoff from Celestia and Nightmare Moon's fight. The others looked at her. What? I pay attention in class. Well, kind of, Spike said. The Timberwolves were made by magic. The Ursas already existed and were brought down from the sky. You're a nerd, Diamond Tiara said. Then, remembering that beating Apple Bloom counted on her being on his good side, she added, Not that there's anything wrong with that. Spike rolled his eyes but didn't say anything. He just looked up at the stars. Did Twilight teach you all of this? Yeah, Spike answered Sweetie Belle's question without thinking, then decided to go on. When I was real little, she had astronomy class. She'd bring me along on all her stargazing. She always told me everything she saw. I thought it was cool back then. Scootaloo cocked an eyebrow. Back then? Spike shrugged. Once astronomy class ended, we kind of stopped doing it. We'd seen all the stars. Luna wasn't around to make any more back then, so it kinda got dull. Then what did you do for fun? Read comic books while Twilight was working. Of course, when those ran out, I had to settle for textbooks, which could be cool if I found something good enough. Didn't you and Twi hang out at all after that? Apple Bloom asked. Yeah, I became her assistant, didn't I? Yeah, but didn't the two of you just have fun? I doubt it, Diamond Tiara said. No offense, Spike, but your mom's way too much of a bookworm. Has she ever even had a cult friend? Spike blushed. Twilight's not my mom, he said, his words coming out incoherently from his fluster. And no, she kissed Blue Blood and Moon Dancer, but that was it. You're lucky, Diamond Tiara said. Your mom wasn't like mine, running off with some Canterlot stallion. Apple Bloom and the others looked at her. Silver Spoon was a bit surprised that she brought it up. I'm sorry. Peh, she scoffed, returning to looking through the telescope. She spoke as if discussing the weather. She was just a gold digger who married Dad since he had bits. She hated me for not having a horn anyway. I was actually glad to see her gone. Well, I didn't like Dad being so depressed, but it needed to happen. He needed to see how bad she was. Every pony, and Spike, was silent for a moment. Well, Spike stumbled. Twilight was hard to live with sometimes, but she's a good pony, and I was happy to help her. I doubt she'd do that. Diamond Tiara tore herself off the telescope. You know, run off with... Oh, I know that. Any pony who would move to here from Canterlot can't care about money. I was talking about being duped by some peasant. Could that really happen? Scootaloo looked skeptical. Oh, it can, Silver Spoon said. Mom made sure to marry a stallion in her money bracket because of that. Well, look at the brat side, Spike, Apple Bloom said. If Twi stays married to Applejack, that won't be a problem. Wait, what? Diamond Tiara asked, now curious. Spike shot Apple Bloom a glare, but it was Scootaloo who spoke. Twilight and Applejack got smashed and married each other a few nights ago. Silence. Then Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon hit the ground laughing. Rainbow Dash approached Fluttershy's cottage in a simple dress that Rarity had made for her long ago and given to her as a birthday present just in case. She was holding a bouquet of flowers in one hoof, something that she made sure Fluttershy would find pretty. She didn't see Angel on the limb of a tree just above her. Grinning, he lifted up a jar that was filled with honey that he had snatched from that dumb bear. He popped the top and dripped the sticky substance down. His aim was true, and it sprinkled on top of the flowers. Rainbow Dash didn't notice. She knocked on the door. A few seconds later, Fluttershy answered, wearing a stunning white dress.
Oh, hello, Rainbow. You know you don't have to knock.
I know, but I wanted to surprise you, she said. She started to pull the flowers out from behind her back. Angel was doing the same with another jar, this one full of bees. Grinning, he loosened the lid just enough, then dropped it toward the ground, making sure it landed just out of their sight. The glass didn't shatter. Angel had dropped it too small of a distance for that, but the top popped off and the bees were free, and in their freedom, they went right for what they considered the safest source, the smell of honey. What the? Rainbow Dash tossed the bouquet in surprise. Then, realizing that they were bees, she moved to shield Fluttershy from them. She missed because Fluttershy flew up to catch the discarded flowers, a happy gasp escaping her lips.
Oh my gosh, Rainbow, these are perfect!
Before Rainbow Dash could respond, her filly friend flew up to the backyard, the bees following. Seconds later, she returned to the still stunned Rainbow Dash. The flowers were gone, but she was happy.
I've been meaning to get some bees to the flowers in my backyard. They'll attract others in their hive, and now they'll be pollinated.
Rainbow Dash blinked. You like them?
Fluttershy nodded. You're so sweet. Oh, you beautiful mare.
And she kissed her, deeply. Angel looked down, his jaw hanging. How could that go so wrong? His teeth and fists clenched. Oh, Rainbow Dash was going to pay for this. He turned to march in, but stopped. Now that they had their bearings together, they remembered just who had put them in the jar in the first place. I know you guys are all upset, but ow, ow, ow! Spike packed up the telescope, ignoring Diamond Tiara's protest that she wasn't finished. It's Applebloom's curfew, time to go home.
But you didn't pick one of us,
Silver Spoon said. You noticed, Spike said with no emotion.
You can just tell us tomorrow,
Sweetie said. Diamond Tiara stepped in. Oh no, I'm not letting Applebloom get alone time with him. She'll bribe him or something.
I will not,
Applebloom said. Look, Spike said, unless you want to throw a slumber party or something, we're out of luck. Spike's claw instantly went to his mouth. His eyes widened, and his irises shrunk. The fillies looked at each other. You know, Scootaloo said, Twilight did want us to spend some time with him. Applejack blew a few strands of mane out of her face. Twilight sighed and used her magic to readjust her wife's hair. Why'd I have to get my mane done? And why no hat? I told you we have box seats for an evening show. We might not have dresses, but I want us to look like we dressed up. Applejack sighed. She hated having her mane out of a ponytail, but she refused to let Twilight spend any money on her for more hair decorations, so her mane hung loose. The hotel had a few complimentary hair care products, and against her will, her hair was straightened for the evening. Twilight hardly had to change, mainly because she picked a mane style that was both easy and worked for a formal look. Still, she was wearing earrings, stars as close to the ones Rarity had made for her at the gala as she could find. She had considered makeup, but she was as adverse to it as Applejack was. Look, it's a 2-hour show, then Trixie wanted to take us out to dinner. I think we can handle being dressed up for that long. Applejack sighed. Trixie's theater was in view. I guess. Here goes nothing. To be continued.